Another bright and shiny day in Warrington. I'm at Into Moto and today I'm taking out this. That's right, it's a Zontes. It's the ZT125 Z2. Now we'll have a look around it the usual way, but what I will say straight off the off, this bike is cheap. So it's a used bike, it is only a year old, but it's up for sale for £2,399. Now because it's a used bike, you don't get the on the road costs, which are usually a couple of £100, and the new price on these are around the £3,000 mark. I've seen them slightly more expensive than that, so it's a decent saving on a new bike. Let's have a look around the usual way, and then of course we'll take it for a ride and we'll see, is it actually a used bike bargain? There's lots to tell you about this though. There is lots on the spec sheet. Let's start with the close-up. Now what draws the eye straight away? For me, it is of course this aftermarket exhaust. Now I've not started it yet, but just looking at that exhaust, I'm expecting this to have quite a bit of a growl to it, but we'll see. I'll do the full 360. Let's have a proper walk around it first and you can see it from all angles, and then I'll start giving you some specifications for it. Now let me know your views, but I think that's a decent looking bike. Nice naked sports bike. So let's start talking specs then. So this does come with disc brakes front and rear. The front one being 300mm. Now it says the brakes are supposed to be amazing on this thing, so we'll see when we do the actual ride. But it does have dual channel ABS. I think they're supposed to have a minimum of CBS, aren't they? But ABS is better and this comes with it. But in my time riding these Zontes, I find they always go above and beyond what they should have with what they actually give you. That's like a Transformer's head, that. So this one does just have the side stand. There isn't a centre stand with it. It has got pillion pegs, and it's got a decent set of grab handles at the back as well. I am told it's very easy to put a top box on this as well because of how it's already set up, so that might be an option for somebody. Nice clear lenses at the back. The seat, you can see pillion sits slightly higher than the rider. These do come with crash bungs as well. If the worst happens, the bike is ready and protected. The monoshock at the back. Now, this apparently has a slipper clutch as well, so we'll see how that feels when we're riding. Quite a big fuel tank for a 125. It holds 17 litres of fuel and apparently will do 100 miles per gallon. So if you've got one of these, let me know, because I'm always curious if they overestimated what the bike is going to be able to do. Weight wise, 160 kilograms, so not quite the low weight of a scooter, something like that, but as far as 125s go, I would say it's about average. Anything from 148 say up to 170 is usually how I find the 125s. And this, yeah, it's not really light, but it's not difficult. It rolls really easily, no issues. If you are looking at downsizing, if you've got a much bigger bike, then yeah, you will find that this feels like a really light bike in comparison. A 770mm seat height, so 5'8", 29-inch inseam, so that translates to I am short with short legs, but I'm flat foot both sides. It's not an issue. So for moving it with your feet, nice and easy to do, and that's with my short legs. If you're taller, you'll find it loads easier to move like that. Seat position, it's going to be my favourite. I can feel it already. You've got pegs in the centre. I like how the tank's shaped, so your leg, or your knee in particular, tucks in just as the tank comes up, so you feel like you're properly glued into the bike, and I like that. It feels nice. And when you've got hold of the bars, I do feel like I'm a straight arm, like there's not a lot of bend in the arm. They feel quite far away from you, but again, I'm only small, so if you're taller, longer arms, not an issue. I'm looking forward to riding it. It's got a top speed of 70 miles an hour, which is a bold claim. If you're claiming a bike will do 70 miles an hour, it better be good performing. Anybody say performance test? I think we might just have to. Now, in the past, when I've been on any sort of Zontes, they've always had a lot of technology compared to a lot of bikes on a similar price point. Now, these I would consider to be at the cheaper end of the bike market, but you wouldn't have thought so when you look at the technology that they actually come with. In fact, you wouldn't have thought so when you look at the number of buttons that you've got on there comparing to a bog standard 125. So with this, you've got a horn, you've got your indicators, there are hazard lights, you've got a high and a low beam, there is also a flash button around there, but you also have a mode and a set button there. And on the right hand side, now this I've not seen for a long time, certainly not on new bikes, but you've got an engine start, you've got your cut off, but you do have an option to turn your lights off. So there is an on and an off and an on. Why on earth you would have your lights off? Because it's always better to be seen. But that used to be something that used to be commonplace on a lot of bikes 20 years ago. I would say since that point, lights are just on, high beam, low beam, but this has an option, always leave them on. You've even got a button for your seat lock. That's the type of thing I've come to expect now with Zontes. They usually have a button to open your fuel cap. This, however, has a key, but I've seen them on other bikes where you're pressing buttons and the caps are popping up, but this, you've got your seat lock on there. Always unnecessary, however, I like it. They're doing stuff that other people aren't doing, and it's a nice little extra. So, screen. It's a nice little digital screen. There's a lot of information on here, as you can see. You've got your total miles. Now this has got 3,672 miles, so it's used bike, but it's not been used a lot. You've also got a clock, which is always handy because I'm always late, so at least I can see how late I'm going to be. Nice prominent speedo, and just, well, you can see how bright it is today. It's lovely blue sky. There is a lot of reflection from the sun. However, the screen still looks perfect. You can see everything that you need to. You've got gear indicators. You've got your rev counter going along there. You've got fuel gauges. You've got temperature gauges. And this bike also has tyre pressure indicator as well. Now I like that because you might not notice that your tyres have lost pressure, and if you carry on riding you're going to end up using more fuel. You've also got the potential to have an accident because of it, whereas this will pop up and tell you. So I like that, nice little feature. That's the walk round done. So what I'm going to do, I'll take the key, don't want anyone pinching it on my watch. What I'm going to do now, get my helmet on, get my gloves on, we'll go for a ride, and yeah, let's see what the performance is like. I think I've got to do a performance test. Any 125 that claims can do 70 mile an hour, I've got to see, is it going to get to 60 mile an hour in my usual place? Let's go, let's see how it rides. This weather is not getting any better, but thankfully I've got my gloves. And when I'm whinging about the weather and you look up and see blue sky, yes there is, but it's still cold. We're on about 5 degrees today, so There was a bit of ice on the floor this morning, but we should be alright for now. It seems to have dried up a bit. Let's start this bike up and see what it's like. Now the exhaust, it says SC Projects on it. It does look like it's going to be loud. Hopefully not too loud. I don't like an obnoxious loud anymore. Oh dear. It's obscene. The gear changes on this are lovely, like really silky smooth. Oh my god. The exhaust is not going to be to everyone's taste, and I accept that because it's not. It is really loud. It's not just a little bit loud, it is obscene. It's not borderline obscene, it's very obscene. I've got my visor down, I've got the microphone inside my visor. Oh my goodness. Now performance on it, that seems fine, actually seems really good. For this little stretch of road here, it's getting up to 40 miles an hour with absolutely no issues at all. That slipper clutch, I can see exactly what they've done with that, and from reading a bit of information just prior to going out, it is something that I think Zontes are quite proud of, because they do talk, oh my god, they do talk about it quite a lot on all of the sites, to say that the slipper clutch is there to make the gear changes a little bit more forgiving, so if your revs are not quite right, it shouldn't really matter, it'll still slip into gear beautifully. And you know what, they're bang on with it. It's just so light and just goes into gear so easily that it's just a pleasure changing gear. There's no clunkiness to it at all. But I think my ears might be bleeding. Some people like a noisy bike, don't they? So if you're one of those people, you're gonna absolutely love this. Who likes a loud bike? Who likes a loud pipe? Let me know in the comments what you think about loud pipes, because the common phrase of loud pipes save lives, I do agree to a certain extent that you do need to be heard, because people quite often give it the "I didn't see you." Well, they might not have seen you, but with a bike as noisy as this, they're sure as hell gonna hear you. The bike is set up for all day riding. It's got an unbelievably comfortable seat, and now I'm riding, yes, I have got a little bend in the arm, my back's up straight, I'm in my happy place as far as position goes. So it is a bike that you could spend hours and hours and hours riding because of comfort. However, could I spend hours and hours and hours riding with this constant drone? I can't even hear myself speak, I can't hear myself think. Everything else about it is brilliant, it's just the noise. And as I've already pointed out, it'll suit some people, but it won't suit others. Now, I personally, I'm not a fan of the noise. I'm going to give it the beans down here. I'm going to try and get to 60 mile an hour before the sharp bend, which is pretty much where you can see the White House down there, or hopefully you can. The fastest 125s I've been on have got to 60 mile an hour by the first tree on the left hand side, but there is only to date 3 bikes that have done that, and that is the Yamaha YZR125, or the R125, the anniversary edition bike that I went on, that was lovely. The Honda CBR125 was around the tree, and then the fastest being Suzuki's GSX-R125, which did it just before the tree, just a little bit faster than the Yamaha. Everything else other than, I think the GSX-S did it just before the bend, that was further down. There was the KTM that did it just before the bend, but I've been on a lot of bikes doing this test, and all of the others have got to 60 mile an hour in the straight which follows after the sharp left bend. We'll see how this fares. It says it's going to do 70 mile an hour, so I'd like to think it will get to 60 before the bend based on those figures, because yeah, I don't know how long it would need to get to 70 if it can't get to 60 on this stretch, because it is quite a long stretch. So we'll see. Let's get ready to go. Let's get us in gear. Visor down so I can do it properly. Right, let's go. It's not made 60, and I'm in 5th gear and I'm holding it because I'm nearly there. There you go. So it's got to 60 just after the bend. The brilliant bikes, the high performing 125s, get to 60 before the bend. The good ones get to 60 just after the bend, and this got to 60 just after the bend, so I'm going to put it in the good category. However, I know there's going to be people out there that's going to criticise my gear changes, but just to prove a point with this bike, when I started off first, second gear, I took them to the red line, which is just after 9,000 revs, and you saw instantly the bike started spluttering because it had reached its max and then some. So I had to change gear before it got into the red, because it wouldn't let you go past the red. At the red line there, it was dead. So I've had to do that through all of the gears. I get to the point where it's not increasing speed, it feels like it's hit a dead point, and that's when I change gear, and that's what I did then. And it achieved, it's like 56 mile an hour by that bend. Now 56 mile an hour, I kept it on full as well. I didn't ease off for the bend, I kept it on full throttle. And then as soon as the bike straightened up, it got to 60 mile an hour fairly quickly after that point. I kept it in 5th gear as well. I didn't go up to 6th, just purely because it was around the 8,000 mark and it felt like it was still picking up speed. I don't know about the claim that it could get to 70 miles an hour. I don't think, certainly with somebody of my weight on, I can't see this bike getting to 70 mile an hour. Now, whether or not that's because this has got the aftermarket exhaust on and the exhaust is killing my eardrums but it's also killing performance, I don't know. You're gonna have to tell me if you've got one of these. The claim figures that Zontes quote is 70 mile an hour top speed. I just can't see it with my weight, not with this exhaust. Let me know if you're anywhere near my weight and I'm like around the 16 stone mark. If you're around 16 stone and you've got one of these, let me know if you've got to 70 and if you've got a standard exhaust as well. I would love to hear from an owner on a couple of things really. The claimed 100 miles per gallon. If you've got one, have you had 100 miles per gallon out of it? How many miles will it do off a full tank of fuel? That's always interesting, and that for me will always come better out of the mouth of an owner, somebody who's owned one for a while. I'm only having a little go on this bike. I take them out for maybe an hour or so. In my opinion, and we've all got opinions, we're all allowed to have one, the same as you lot are allowed to voice yours if you think I'm wrong. And I'm quite happy because, you know, people have different opinions on everything, don't they? So yeah, I'm more than happy to listen to other people's opinion, and I won't disagree with you. It's just your opinion, my opinion, we're all different. In my opinion, the only thing I don't like is the noise. and that's just because of the aftermarket. It's not a standard. So if it had the standard bike, I would have thought, well, it would have been a clean sweep for a comfortable, good performing bike. But on this exhaust, it's a comfortable, decent performing, decent looking bike with loads of tech that sounds like an absolute monstrous beast. So yeah, I think it boils down to, it's a lovely bike. There is no questions for me. I love the looks of it. I actually love the ride of it. It's a really comfortable bike to ride. The only thing, as I keep repeating, is just that exhaust is just ridiculous. It is. It's obscene. The exhaust looks nice, however, it's just obnoxiously loud, and it's that you've got to really want a loud bike to be comfortable riding a bike that is so loud on the streets. And for me, I don't. But if you do, the bike is for sale at Moto. Don't just write it off because of the noise, because, you know, slip-on exhausts, they're not particularly expensive if you're buying a used one. So there's an option there, but if you like a big, loud, obnoxious beast, then yeah, it's for sale in Moto. Link in the description. I shall catch you on the next one. Laters.